Hello and welcome to the Collective Spotlight, starring me, Danny Morales. I have Steven Spivak in the store along with Brendan Boyle. And as always, we are here to spotlight one of our collective initiative books. I'm very proud of episode 11 here because we will be featuring, it's not our first all ages book on the shelf for the collective initiative, but it is going to be the first all ages book that we feature here on the Collective Spotlight. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring out Frank James Bailey, the writer and creator of Tercona.
How you doing?
How you doing? Good, man. How have you been?
Just so you know, it's Tercona.
Tercona, there we go.
Tercona, that's right. That's okay though, because I mean, that sometimes it's gotta make sure people know that's Tercona.
Tercona. Now, let's jump right in here. So I was reading it right before I was waiting for you to come in. It's a mother and daughter superhero team. Am I correct?
No.
Oh.
Okay. Let me back up just a pinch here. Okay. Originally, when I wrote this I started writing it back in 2000. I created the whole concept back in 2015, and wrote the first book. It was an illustrated novel. Okay, the illustrated novel I thought was very original. I mean, it had it's like a book with a lot of color pictures. Okay,
gotcha.
This sort of introduces how her powers work, introduces her as a character, introduces her friends. It tells how she got away from her mother. Her mother. Long story short, it's basically she took her mother. Her mother's very evil and very bad. Wants to be the ruler of the planet, kind of thing. Well, she left her mother on this old planet called Batacor 3. Took her dad and her brother, came to Earth. Okay. She ages 1 year for every 10 years on Earth. They landed in the early 1990s. So for 20 some odd years or whatever, they're like hiding, going from school to school. And finally one day, she says to her dad, I'm sick of running. I'm sick of hiding. Well, in chapter 9 of this is where you see that she turns into the superhero Tercona because the diner's being robbed. And so that's when she kind of takes her life in her own hands and says, listen, I'm going to do this. And that's how she does it. And the shirt I'm wearing is actually from this first book. She is wearing a cape in the very first time she ever became a superhero. Okay. Now again, there's no cape in that one, but in the first time she ever did this, she put a cape on. She put this new suit on, and I made these T-shirts special just for limited edition for this book, because if you remember the movie Big Hero 6, Baymax was green, and then he turned red. Just like Spider-Man from Tobey Maguire, he had this thing on, but then he made his own suit.
Yep.
Similar to that, it's like, she fought these bad guys in this diner in this book, and her cape got caught on a nail. So it's like, okay, never make capes again.
Well, and then she has in the first issue, you'll notice she doesn't have a cape, but she's got really long. Let me find her. She's got really long hair. So was that kind of your 2.0 of her? Instead of doing the cape, you did the long blue hair.
Well, she's always had kind of long blue hair. That I wanted when I was kind of making her. I was like, okay, blue is very. It pops. You notice it right away, especially with the eye, the
domino mask. Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, there's other books, actual novels, and I think it was like 2018 of deciding, I like the idea of the books. Okay, do I continue with the books or I try something different? So I had a concept for the first comic book, which is what you have there, called Who is Thea Beaumont. And that's where and then when I went to Comic-Cons in 2019, I was like, whoa, people seem to like this. Because people I'm sure they want to get in and see how the whole thing starts and stuff. And some people will buy like a book and a comic, just to kind of see how the whole thing starts. But a lot of people will take a chance on a $5 book as opposed to a $20 book. $5 comic opposed to a $20 book.
Yes. So it is a kid's book, right? It is kind of all ages?
Yes.
So what made you want to do, because like I mentioned, this is our first or one of our first self-published kids books. So what made you want to do an all-age book? I know your son is in all your social media posts, but what made you want to do an all-ages book?
Well, about 7 years. Well, okay, I'm thinking about back again. When my son wasn't even born yet, or he was like 1 or 2 years old, I was really hanging out more with my daughter's stuff. And
Okay.
one day, the whole concept came of this. One of my daughters says, "Daddy, I don't like princesses anymore. I like superheroes." That's about the time she changed the room from all this, princess stuff to superhero stuff. Matter of fact, hang on, I'll pop this open here. And I'll put it over here. I'm going to try and share the screen here for a second. Share screen over here. Boom. Okay. Can you see that?
Yes. We got it right
that's
there.
my daughter dressed as Tercona.
That is awesome.
She cosplayed as Tercona. She's done that a couple times, but now she's 13 going on 14. She loves My Hero Academia. So she's kind of she likes it. How do I get out of the share thing here? Just okay, stop screen. Okay, okay.
But yeah, so that's awesome. So did you create the character in the book kind of loosely based on her, or
loosely? Yes. Matter of fact, her name is Paige. And again, 7 years ago, or when she was 7, she's, liked all that stuff. And she really liked superheroes. And at the time, there wasn't really a whole lot of superheroes out there for her to sort of cling to or be like, especially teenage superheroes. But then eventually they did start coming around. But yeah, at the time, so that's what I created it for. I would create to have, superhero girl to look up to and to read about and that kind of stuff. And it wasn't until I made the comics that I thought, she likes Tercona. She still loves the posters and I make her, and she wants to go to Comic Cons and stuff. But I still want to continue the story, even though she's not as into it as she was.
Yeah.
So but that's why I said, look, my son's 7, 8 years old, so we do some things together and stuff, and I want to put him more in it too because Tercona does have a brother. But I haven't talked about him that much.
Okay.
Because you can only focus on so much of the comic book,
Exactly. You got 28 pages. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So when writing this this female superhero, other than getting some inspiration from your daughter, what other female heroes did you kind of look at or read about to kind of build this universe that you did?
Well, the one thing I really enjoyed was Kim Possible. She is one of my favorite cartoons. And if you look closely at her lip back there or on the comic, she has that Kim Possible lip. It's the only thing that kind of is very similar, that Kim Possible lip. But otherwise, not like Kim Possible at all. I was kind of influenced. She's a strong female lead character. And I like that. I was also influenced by other TV shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is a very serialized storyline. I like serialized storylines. Teen Titans, the original Teen Titans from the early 2000s. Danny Phantom was another one. And some of the ones that come out on Netflix now are really good too, like The Dragon Prince. I love The Dragon Prince.
Yeah. So Netflix has a few Nickelodeon. I'm kind of getting a Nickelodeon animation feel when I look at the book a little bit, and that's kind of, as you mentioned, Danny Phantom and those other properties. That's kind of the feel I got. So talk to me a little bit about issue 1. Okay. So I was reading through it. You put us right there at the beginning of that first issue. Like they're in the car or in their vehicle and they're going to the barbershop or whatnot. Yeah,
to return that money. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to us about the first issue. Does it take place after what you had done in the book, or is it a jumping on point?
When I pitched people in 2019 about all the 3 books and the one comic that I had at the time, which was that one, I said it's the same world, same characters, new storyline, new format.
Okay.
So it's basically, if you read all 3 of the books that I have, the actual books, it's the same characters, it's the same world. It's just I tried comic book format and I thought, okay, let's try a whole new storyline. Because when I started the comics, I was like, well, do I start all over? It's like, no, I'm going to start because I already had all the information's right there. So I just started a new storyline in a new format, which is the comic book format.
Okay.
So the whole idea behind the who is Thea Baymont storyline, it's kind of interesting, okay? I think it was 2018 when I was promoting the first 3 books and I wanted to write the comic. I had actually written a story about Tercona's mom called Medea's Rise to Power. And my editor said, you realize this isn't really a superhero book. It's all about her mom and everything else. It's like only a couple of chapters about Tercona. you got to try and think about how you're going to do this. So I thought, okay, what if I just took the first chapter and see how I can move that into a comic, which is what I did. The first chapter of that book that wasn't published yet, I took that, made it into Who's Thea Baymont. When people really liked it, okay, I'm going to take this, I'm going to keep going with it. So that's what I did. So that's why you have all 3 books there, right?
Yes. We have
because
issues
the third
1,
book kind
2,
of
and 3.
continues that storyline of Who's Thea Baymont.
Okay. So is issue 3 the ending of your first arc, or are you planning a 5-issue arc, or how did you plan the arcs?
I'm probably I plan the arcs of at least 6 to 7 arcs, because what I want to do is I want to try and have like a Who's the Baymont storyline volume 1 graphic novel.
Yes.
But I'll exclude comic number 2 because it has nothing to do with Thea Baymont. I figure it's a good idea to hey, if you want the actual just the storyline of that, there you go. But if you want the actual all the comics, this way people who are collectors will just collect number 2. And never again, if you read, number 2 has really nothing to do with the Baymont. So
yeah, exactly. And that's kind of cool. It reminds me, as you described that, and some people that are familiar with DC may remember Greg Rucka in 2016 with Wonder Woman. Issue 1 was in current timeline. Issue 2 was a year 1 story, and it was kind of like when you collected them, they were 2 separate. That's kind of what that reminds me of a little bit. Anybody that's familiar might know. But yeah, so you have 3 issues out. What is your plan for issue 4? Are you working on it?
It's going to be about a 32-page comic. I'm about maybe 20 pages into it with my artist. So we're working on it, and the whole idea is to have it ready for next year. We should have it finished and colored and stuff by the end of the year. But again, I don't, I want to make sure I have everything ready before I say, oh yeah, here it is,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, how many, when you guys have, I know you haven't been able to do any cons in the last 6 to 8 months, but when you were on the con circuit and I saw, it looked like you guys were at the library there earlier. What has
that was last
reception? Year. Yeah. What has the reception kind of been from parents and kids alike with your book?
They seem to really like the comic. They like the storyline, the banter, the action. They like the interesting talk of going back and forth, which is obviously part of the writing that I do. And you'll notice I really stick on characters. So Tercona wears an all-around bodysuit, but her friend Brittany wears a crop top. That's what she likes to wear. Again, different characters, different people. They like, and of course, Brittany, she knows more karate stuff. She can fight. And even though Tercona can fight too,
Brittany's more like a grounded, like street fighter, whereas,
Well, and Tercona obviously has the powers and she can, do stuff, but, and we'll get more into... Go ahead. Sorry.
One thing I loved, Frank, and as a kid's book, it makes all the sense in the world because I could see any kid having this conversation. When she calls Brittany her sidekick.
Yeah.
And there's about 3 pages of, it's not straight, but there's about 3 times that she mentions it. Again, let's go back to the sidekick thing. When you write some of the dialogue, especially for Brittany, did you use your daughter a little bit to see like the types of things that maybe she would say, especially being a dad to a now teenage daughter?
I didn't use the sidekick thing there, but I always love the idea of, okay, like I said, when I watched Kim Possible, Ron was her sidekick,
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, okay, Brittany's a tough girl to begin with. She doesn't want to be a sidekick.
Yeah.
So, and I mentioned again in the second comic and briefly in the third a little bit. So, and I don't think I mentioned it in the fourth comic, but as I'm writing the 5th comic, which probably won't be out till like late next year, but I'm briefly going to mention it again, but it'll probably be the last time I mention it. It's like I don't want the joke to keep go on.
Yeah.
But I mean, it'll be a good way in the 5th comic again, sometime way next year. It'll be a good way to end it. I'm going to end it in a really fun note. So, but yeah, as you mentioned, it's in the first book and the second book. I was like, really, sidekick?
So let me ask you, Frank. Did you find any challenges in trying to write an all ages book? Were there any challenges at all, or were you able to kind of get it done?
The challenges to me were to make the characters seem realistic. That to me, that was the real. And I've been told a few times by some people, it's like, well, you really can't mention this, but just try and work around it somehow. And I'm thinking, I don't want to keep beating around the bush for a certain character. So,
yeah.
It's like that's why somewhere in like I write these things down that I know about these characters, so I know how they act to certain things, and the way Brittany acts, the way Tercona acts. I write the stuff down, but eventually that's going to have to come to the surface, and talk about that in the actual comic. Even though I know about it as my notes, I know how they're going to act the thing. So it's sometimes it's difficult for something that I'm not really a part of, but I ask questions to a lot of people that I know. So
okay, all right, yeah, that's awesome. So, talk to me a little bit about your artist. I'm not going to even try to pronounce the name. Because
I honestly I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but his first name is Jame. And I've been working with him probably since 2015. He's the artist of the books, and he's also made me some interesting memes.
Yes, I love the memes.
For like one thing, the memes that he makes, like he made some birthday ones that that's another thing too. To make the characters more relatable, I gave each character a birthday.
Oh,
so when I have a Tercona Facebook page and a Tercona fan club. So on the fan club, I'll say, "Oh, it's still so-and-so's birthday." Now, it just so happens that most of the birthdays are earlier in the year, except for Paige's. Paige's is October 31st. And the interesting thing about her birthday is, again, getting back to the first book, they landed in the early 90s on October 31st on Halloween night. So she sort of adopted that as her. She's an alien, so she doesn't know what her birthday is.
Yeah.
So she adopted that as her birthday. It's a callback, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you leave little Easter eggs, even though you've only got a little bit here. You've dropped Easter eggs all over, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's awesome. So Frank, was this your first published work? Was in comic books or anything like that?
Well, no. These again, the original 3 books that I have here, that they're books. They're not actually comic books.
Yeah.
But these 3 books, they're on Amazon.com, and they're also on my website too, Tercona.com. But those are the 3 original books. And as for self-publishing the independent comics, well, I didn't know exactly where to put those, so I didn't put them on Amazon. They're actually on just my website. So that's why I'm trying to contact you guys and other comic book stores to try and get these in comic book stores.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. And so that leads me to my next question. Mm-hmm. When creating this book, and then also when reaching out, have you noticed that there is there is what I would like to call like a kind of a gap in the industry for all ages books? I mean, Miles is Miles Morales seems to be an all ages character, but not the books aren't really written for the elementary grade readers. Did you kind of try to fill that gap with this book? Is that kind of part of your mission? To
me, the original books were meant for kids ages 8 to 12 because I had to pick an actual section to put that in. So it was like 8 to 12. If you want to continue, if you want to compare it to like Harry Potter, the original Harry Potter book was like 8 to 12, but it grew as it went. And even though it's considered 8 to 12, you wouldn't. The last book is like not really 8 to 12. It's more violent.
Exactly.
I want my characters to grow like that if they can. That's the plan. But of course, it's a slow plan because I'm going to put out like 2, maybe 3 comics a year.
Yeah. Exactly. So then would my assumption be that issue 4 in early 2021 will feel a smidge, not a lot, but a smidge more mature than issue 1, which came out, last year.
Yeah, just a smidge. Yeah.
Yeah, just a tiny bit.
There's going to be a couple of issues. I don't want to give things away, but a couple of issues you're going to learn about Brittany. And even though comic number 2, you learn more about her mom because her mom was in the kitchen. In comic number 4, you're going to learn a little bit about her dad.
Okay.
It's a mixed family. So
your world over this first story arc, you're world building, right? You're introducing the family, you're introducing the world and everything like that.
Yeah.
So do you feel that once you get into that second story arc, you'll be able to be a little more unchained now that everybody knows the characters, you'll be able to go and tell the stories now after that?
Mhm. Well, I'm trying to tell the stories as I go too. So
Yeah. So let me ask you. I noticed as I'm reading through here, I
Mhm.
see the barber shop,
Yeah.
which to me seemed very small townish. And then the way that the barber talks, oh, I've been here for years, and this,
Mhm.
is this supposed to take place in a small town? It kind of looks like a city, but then the way they talk, it seems like a small town.
It's supposed to take place in a city kind of like maybe Toledo. It's not too
Okay,
big, but
okay,
not too small. It's not like a Mayberry type of sound. It's
okay.
it's kind of like Toledo. It's kind of big, but it's not real big.
Yeah. So
That's the
okay,
idea
so we're
behind it. There-
okay, so it's
the
not a
idea-
metropolis. We're not
no,
in New York City or
no.
in LA,
But
but
there's a highway, there's a lake, there's a place to go for sports and stuff like minor league sports.
okay.
That's the idea behind it.
Awesome. Well, with that being said, we got a couple minutes left. I'm gonna go ahead and let you just do the full. I say full elevator pitch. Elevator pitch is supposed to be short.
Okay.
Do your full any type of pitch. Everybody watching, let them know what the book is about, and that we got it here at the Collective, and it's on sale today.
Okay. Well, Tercona, the comic book number 1 is about they're going into Tercona and her friend Brittany, not her sidekick. Tercona and her friend Brittany. They go into a barbershop. They're basically giving the money back because the barbershop was robbed. And when they go there and they come out and they're talking about all of a sudden, bam, they get hit with like a slime gun type of thing. Like, oh, what's going on? So that's how that one happened. So now it's like, okay, who attacked us? Then Brittany's trying to get a hold of them. That's the first comic. The second comic is, well, they start off. There's these two people. They're basically robbed, like a convenience store type of thing, and Tercona and Brittany basically stop her. And then they go back home, and Brittany's all covered in mud, and Mom won't let him in the house. She's like, I don't think so.
Familiar. Sounds familiar.
Yeah. So in the third comic, they meet up with Burmese again. They figure out that Adam from the first comic was just a pawn, and there's another guy working he was working for somebody else. This Thea Beaumont. So we get to see the Thea Beaumont a little bit in comic number 3. So the story continues, and you get to find out what kind of powers this Burmese has. He has a necklace around his neck. He can kind of mind control people, and you get to find out that Tercona can't be mind controlled. But that doesn't mean people around her can't.
So we learn a little bit more about the villain, right? As we're moving on.
Yeah, and the Burmese is 7 foot tall. He's 300 pounds, and he doesn't use his large stature that much. He doesn't need to. He has a mind control necklace.
Yeah.
So, he's going to come in number 4 sometime next year. He'll come back.
That's awesome. Well, James, or Frank, let everybody know where they can find you, where they can find the books. Besides us, we will have them. But let us know where you are on social media, what the website is. Let everybody know where they can find you.
Well, you can find me real simple, Tercona.com. Tercona, Tercona.com. It's right behind me there.
Yep.
Tercona.com. That's where you can find the website. That's where you can find out more about the characters. That's where you can find out more about the books, the first 3 books or the comic books. I have a little blog in the very front. I tell about what's going on and that kind of stuff. I also have other social media outlets. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can probably just look me up. I'm Frank James Bailey. But on Facebook, I have a Facebook like page, which people can go there and like the page if they want. I also have a Facebook group called the Tercona Fan Club, and I post something on there every day, but people react and communicate more in the fan club than they do on the actual like page. Like, for example, people draw their own art and put it on. I sometimes I'll post it on Tuesdays, but some people will just draw their art. Hey, I like Tercona, so they drew it, and that's on the website too. I fan art. That's awesome. I'm really humbled by. All this time, people are drawing Tercona because they like the way she looks. And
that is awesome. Cool. That has to be really awesome to know you create a character that people are drawing fan art for.
Yeah, and I'm flattered beyond belief that people really like it that much. So
well, we're hoping that we can get this in all the hands of all of our young readers here at the store. The book is Tercona number 1. We have 1, 2, and 3 here in the store. Written, created here by Frank James Bailey. Thank you so much for joining us today, Frank. We'll keep you updated on how the book does, and we'll let you know as soon as we need more copies, because I have a feeling that'll be soon.
No problem. All right.
Take it easy, Frank. Thanks for joining us today.
Sure thing.
So, guys, I want to thank our guest, Frank James Bailey. We have his book, Tercona, here. Number 1, number 2, number 3. All copies are signed by him, and we do have one copy out of bag so that you can flip through it, read it. It is meant for kids 8 to 12, a little bit higher. The reading level is not super difficult, so you can get it for any kid. And even if you just want to go through it, the art is real nice. I think kids will enjoy looking through this. This is now our second kids book that we have on the Collective Initiative. Special shout out to Frank, and we will see you guys all tomorrow on our Collective Spotlight, or our Collective Happy Hour $1 auction here at 5:30 p.m. on the Collective Facebook. Thanks for joining us, guys.